Excited about Airsoft? Hit the like button and comment to join other Airsofters in the conversation. What's up, Airsofters? If you're in the market for something other than an M4, then you can't get much more different than this, the FN-P90. But not just any FN-P90. EMG and Krytac have joined forces with Cybergun to bring our combined expertise and passion to this ultra-compact, completely ambidextrous AEG that is the officially licensed FN-P90. And if that doesn't excite you, then you probably never held one. For those that might not know the history of the P90, it's quite interesting, and I encourage you to look further into it. But basically, the UN was looking to adopt a weapon system for rear echelon troops, personnel who really wouldn't be on the front lines, but still needed something to defend against the possibility of attack or paratroops with body armor. The weapon system had to be light, compact, and still able to defeat that body armor, specific body armor types at the time that they were worried about. And FN was right there with an answer. Project 90, or the P90, named after the year it was introduced. The P90 caught the public's attention as a futuristic firearm almost immediately, with TV shows like Stargate and 24, movies ranging from James Bond to Blade 2 and John Wick 3, and lots of video games. GoldenEye, Counter-Strike, Metal Gear Solid, Fallout, Battlefield, Rainbow Six, Splinter Cell, really too many to name. That was a pretty good list though. And it's been in animes like Gunslinger Girl or Gun Gale Online, which I've heard are pretty good, but I've never actually seen them. And clearly they feature guns like the P90. This list is extensive, and if you've been alive for the past 50 years, you've probably seen at least one P90 in at least one movie, video game, or television show. And if you take a look across the spectrum of modern rifles, the looks, functionality, and controls are all extremely similar. The M4, the AK, and HK systems are all very conventional. The P90, on the other hand, is anything but conventional. Every aspect of this system is a study in the unconventional. From the placement of the magazine, to the fire selector, to the way rounds feed different from anything else out there. And that lack of convention is exactly what makes the P90 one of the best PDWs of all time. Now, dissenters will argue that the lack of a conventional setup is only going to slow you down and get in the way. Heck, I'm guilty of that line of complaint. I mean, admittedly, I've said things in the past about not being sure about the P90's ergonomics. And admittedly, the magazines are bulky. It does take practice to reload quickly. And mag pouches aren't exactly the most popular thing out there, but they do exist, and with practice, it will aid you in reloads. And at 200 rounds per mid-cap, my previous complaints are kinda moot. So with those caveats in mind, let's explore what makes this EMG Krytac Cybergun P90 so unique, even among other P90s, starting with the externals. Like its real counterpart, this P90 makes extensive use of polymers. It's worth noting that the polymers used here are really, really nice. The entire body is made from nylon fiber reinforced polymers, save for the upper receiver, barrel assembly, and accessory optics rails. It's lightweight, like really, really lightweight, but reassuringly sturdy, with no creaking or flexing, excellent texture, and it's solid so that it doesn't feel like you're carrying around a hollow shell. And thanks to the now iconic shape, incredibly wieldable. The designers of the P90 set out to make it perfectly ambidextrous, with no change in functionality for right and left-handed shooters. This means that both sides are a perfect mirror image of each other, and that all of the controls run down the center line, located around the thumb hole for the dominant hand. This select fire switch, trigger, mag release, and charging handle are all within easy reach without shifting your grip or altering your shooting position. Heck, they've even given you an iron sight for righties on this side, lefties on this side, and one perfectly in the center that looks through the optic rail. Righty or lefty, the P90's ergonomic layout forces you to hold it in a certain way, with your support hand riding right in front of your dominant hand. And by right in front of, I mean almost on top of. It's unique, and it does take a little bit of getting used to. Once you are used to it, you fall right into that level of comfort that makes this so tactically advantageous in really close quarters engagements. Something else that there's no getting around is the magazine. It's unique, not only in how it looks, but how it operates, how it's loaded, and even in its capacity settings. It holds a whopping 200 rounds, which is considerable for a mid-cap. But if you're itching for realism and want to exactly replicate the magazine capacity of the real FN P90, which by the way holds 50 rounds in such a compact package, which is unheard of, there is a switch located on this magazine on the underside, allowing you to limit the exact same 200 round magazine to just 50 rounds. Talk about realism. Well, we just did. I was talking about realism, and then I compared it to the real 50 rounds at the. Let's keep going. Speaking of magazines, one of the first questions any airsofter has about a brand new platform is, how is the magazine compatibility? Well, it goes without saying that the Krytac works best with Krytac magazines. And as far as other magazines go, we found that of the available options on the market, the Tokyo Marui magazines seemed to work best, fitting and feeding phenomenally. So if you were looking for a high capacity magazine, you could slot in one of the Tokyo Marui ones and it would work fine. The other P90 mags that are on the market work, they just don't quite lock into place as easily as the TMs do without assistance. What I mean is, once you seat the magazine, you actually need to pull forward on the latch to get it to lock in properly. But it will feed once you do that, just realize that it won't lock in on its own, adding an additional step to your reload process. But honestly, these new 200 round mags are better than anything else currently available, and they're the only way to get the automatic cutoff feature once your mag is empty. The controls on the EMG Krytac FN P90 are refreshingly good. The select fire switch has a noticeable click between positions, and the trigger feels nice, tight, and direct, thanks to the various micro switches that make the whole system work. No mushy, fickle dual stage trigger either. This dual stage trigger has a clear, predictable transition between semi and full auto. Oh, did we mention that this trigger is adjustable? There's a hole for the adjustment located at the back of the main thumb hole. And another feature this trigger has is an adjustable pull weight. By swapping out this spring right here, you can replace it with another spring from Krytac to make your trigger pull heavier or lighter depending on your preference. This is truly the most adjustable P90 trigger ever. Anyone who's ever used a P90 can attest that adjusting your hop-up unit while wearing gloves is almost impossible. Let's be real here. Adjusting the P90's hop-up without gloves is almost impossible, assuming that you can get the sliding door open with a knife or a screwdriver, or trying to smash it in with a hammer just so you can gain access to the hop-up adjustment wheel. It's tough. Let's talk about this one. Fortunately, the EMG Krytac FN-P90 solves that issue while also adding a bit of realism. On this P90, the charging handle isn't just for looks. It actuates the hop-up door, which is oversized to allow you to open it with a gloved finger, should you decide not to open it in style with the charging handle. And speaking of gloved fingers, thanks to the Krytac rotary style hop-up, adjustments can be made easily on the fly with no tools, no hammers, screwdrivers, or knives to try to get a really awkwardly small hop-up cover window open. Another thing that this FN-P90 gets right is battery storage. Plenty of space for one of our favorite batteries, the Matrix 1000 milliamp 11.1 volt LiPo batteries. And if you want to run something a bit longer, you'll be glad to know that stock pad extensions will be available soon. Additionally, battery can be accessed very easily without depressing a button. The stock pad simply slides down out of the way and is replaced simply by sliding it back up, and it locks very positively. Something nice. And something that doesn't require you to take off gloves. We saw great accuracy out of the EMG Krytac P90 at the range. Starting off at 50 feet, hitting a 6-inch plate was a breeze, and it made a nice grouping on our Evike professional silhouette targets. Out at 100 feet, I was still able to hit a 6-inch plate and place a larger grouping of hits on the silhouette target. Even though the P90 is relatively short overall, its bullpup design allows it to have a 250mm inner barrel, which is long for an AEG this compact. And thanks to that longer inner barrel, this P90 is outdoor ready at a crisp 400 FPS and 20 RPS with an 11.1 volt LiPo. If you want a lower FPS out of the box for a CQB ready P90, there's a 350 FPS package available on our website. So you don't need to worry about changing the spring. You can just open it and play. Access to the barrel and hop-up system for cleaning and tuning is made easy by sliding the full metal upper assembly off the front of the P90, replicating the field strip procedure. Upgrade parts and accessories like those made by Laylax for Krytacs can be found right here at Evike.com. Since the inception of the version 6 gearbox in the P90, not a lot has changed. Well, Airsofters, that's about to change, because the version 6 gearbox in this FN-P90 does things a little bit differently, and dare I say, brings the performance and internals of this P90 into the modern era of Airsoft and electronics. Starting with how you access the gearbox. The back retaining plate is metal as opposed to plastic, and there's a cutout to allow the quick change spring guide to be accessed without needing to remove anything else. Did we mention this has a quick change spring? Because it does. Also easily accessible is the automotive fuse, which you can see right here near the wires, which are, of course, terminated in an Airsoft T-plug, also known as Dean's connectors. Don't worry, if you use small type Tamiya's, there's an adapter provided in the box. Once the gearbox retaining plate is removed, the gearbox can be removed out the back of the body, making this P90 one of the nicest AEGs to work on because of how easy it is to get to the gearbox. Immediately apparent is Krytac's unique wiring harness on the gearbox, which houses their MOSFET and a series of micro switches and contacts that make the whole system work so well. Here's a look at the PCB with the cover removed. The gearbox itself is reinforced and has radius cuts on all 4 corners of the cylinder window. Suffice it to say, this new Krytac version 6 gearbox can take a beating. The internal components are just as impressive as the rest of this package. The gears are standard Krytac size, 16 tooth, 18:1 ratio, and ride on 8mm J cage bearings. You'll notice that there's no weird oval-shaped bushing typically seen in older version 6 gearbox designs. That's the past. This is the future. High quality, high strength bearings in all 6 locations. The piston is polymer with 4 metal teeth with the second tooth removed and a polymer piston head with no thrust bearing. The cylinder is ported, and the cylinder head is that classic Krytac orange polymer, though in a version 6 nozzle configuration. The nozzle has an O-ring, and we're happy to report that the compression is very impressive. Moving forward, the hop-up unit resembles a pretty standard P90 design, with some notable Krytac updates, including their rotary dial, which has clicking detents for a very positive adjustment. And the bucking and barrel share features with Krytac's other lines, so upgradability should be very similar. Really, everything about this P90 speaks of quality and attention to detail, both inside and out. From the small touches that more closely replicate real features, to the thoughtful, considered internal updates that bring some much-needed modernization to one of the most venerable platforms in Airsoft. For anyone looking to add a modern, classic PDW to their Airsoft lineup, the choice is obvious. The EMG Krytac Cybergun fully licensed FN P90 PDW AEG. Check it out right here on our website at Evike.com. Thanks for watching. Want even more Airsoft content? Hit the subscribe button and click the bell notification icon. Follow us on Instagram and join our Facebook for epic weekly giveaways. And speaking of magazines, one of the very first questions any Airsofter has about a new platform is, how's the magazine compatibility, bro? I'm sorry.